Edelweiss Original Weizenbier.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I was plodding my way through the House of Trembling Madness Christmas case of beers, but I've had to have a break. It's piss poor, to be honest. There is a couple of shining lights in there, notably the C84 Brewery Santa's Tipple and the Hook Norton 12 Days. They're the only two that really stood out for me. There's others that are okay, they're acceptable, but to be honest, on the whole, it's disappointing. And I should have known better because they had all kinds of shit in there, like Christmas IPAs and Christmas Pale Ales, which, of course, is complete and utter fucking bollocks. But we are where we are. So, as a way of having a break, I've decided to tuck into some of this stuff, and this is the Edelweiss Original Weizenbier. Now, Edelweiss have been going since 1646, and they are not Bavarian. They are Austrian. They are based in the Austrian Alps near Salzburg, I think, or in a region around near Salzburg. And I'm looking at the photos of the brewery and the surrounding area. It looks absolutely beautiful. Reminds me a lot of Switzerland. Of course, Switzerland is in the Alps as well, or part of it is anyway. But it looks amazing, and they use fresh water from the Alps to brew this stuff as well. So it looks quite good. Now, I'm quite well up on Bavarian wheat beer, or to give its correct term, weissbier. But you'll notice that this is called Weizenbier. Only Bavarian wheat beer can be called weissbier. If it's brewed outside of the state of Bavaria, you have to call it either Weizen, Weiss, or, as they've done here, Weizenbier. I don't know why, but that's why. I'm not sure about Weiss. I'm not sure whether you're allowed to call it Weiss or not. But if you look at wheat beer that's brewed outside, it will be Weizen or Weizenbier, as they've done here. Now, I think I've had one Austrian wheat beer before, and that was the Stiegl Weissbier, and it didn't really stand out for me that much, so I'm not really too well up on the Austrian wheat beers, or I don't really have much experience of them. The German ones that have been brewed outside of Bavaria, there are a couple that stand out, but the one that mainly stands out for me is the brewery from Chemnitz, the Einsiedler Brewery. Really nice, I have to say. Really, really impressive compared to some of the Bavarian wheat beers. It really would have held its own if it was brewed there. But this Austrian stuff, I'm not so sure about. Now, apparently this recipe dates back to the 1600s, and I don't know how true that is, but if it does, then that's pretty impressive. And of course, it does conform to the Reinheitsgebot, even though it is not in Germany. This is in Austria, and this brewery does have a bit of a tradition going on for it. It's been going since, as I say, since 1646. This has been going for 350 years, and it is at the moment, apparently, not too sure, but they're claiming that their beer, the original, is the most popular wheat beer in Austria. I have no reason to doubt that. So there you go. Looks interesting. Let's check it out. Right, 500ml bottle, I think. Yeah, it's 500ml bottle. It's 5.3%. Brewed by Brau Union. Not sure who that is. I imagine this is a brand name of the Brau Union, possibly made in Österreich. Österreich, I think it's pronounced. Ingredients: water, wheat malt, barley malt, hops and yeast. Yep, not bad. Distributed by Heineken. Distributed by Heineken Romania. Now that does make sense, because I think you can get this on, is it Perfect Draft? Or is it one of the others? But they do a keg that you can use on the Perfect Draft of the Edelweiss, and that makes sense now. So this has been taken over by Heineken. Wish I hadn't have read that. I much prefer stuff that is brewed by independent brewers. But you occasionally do get a macro brewer who comes up with a reasonably good beer. The one that springs to mind for me is the Jupiler stuff. I don't care what you say about that. That is a rather nice Pilsner. It's a Belgian Pilsner, tastes just like a lager. Very nice indeed. So, macro brewers, it's the old saying, was it a stop clock can be right twice a day? Well, you know, macro brewers occasionally get it right. Not often, but occasionally. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get it open. Let's see what's going on. Rightio. Oh, this will be the first foreign beer, i.e. not English beer, I've had in a while. Because even on my days off of not reviewing, I've been drinking Fuller's Bengal Lancer, Fuller's London Pride, Fuller's Honeydew, quite a bit of Shepherd Neame beer as well. Quite a few Spitfires. I mentioned the Longman stuff, the best bitter. Oh, that's something else. On cask, it's absolutely amazing stuff. You have to try that if you get a chance. I don't think you're going to get a chance if you're up north. But if you're down here, give it a go. As I say, I've also been tucking into some other British stuff. I've been caning some Sam Smith stuff and some Orkney Brewery stuff as well. So it is not all bad. And this will be the first foreign beer I've had in a while. Get me. Now my normal go-to, the shop round the corner, I do cans of Budvar, which is my fridge filler at the moment. But they've just put the prices up. And it is £6.50 for 4 cans, which I think is a little bit fucking steep. So I've held off there, and I'm going for the cheaper stuff. There is in the glass. Does look like a wheat beer, or Weizenbier, I should say. Foamy 3-finger whitehead. Very carbonated indeed. Nice orange colour, as you would expect on the nose. Yeah, the usual caper, but aromas aren't big. There is a sourness to it, or sourness in the aroma. Occasionally you do get that in certain cheaper wheat beers, which I don't actually mind. Might put some people off. They're used to having sweeter style banana, chewing gum, or bubble gum as they call it, not chewing gum, bubble gum style flavour. You know, that juicy fruit bubble gum? I think that's what they're talking about. But this, it's got a little tinge of sourness that is coming from the yeast. But it does smell interesting. Now, of course, this isn't going to be like a Bavarian wheat beer, which is sweeter. They put a lot of emphasis on the banana. There is also clove in there as well. Tends to be a little bit more clove on foreign. Tends to be a bit more clove on the wheat beers that are brewed outside of Bavaria, with the exception of the Einzieler stuff, which again was really sweet, very much in keeping with a Bavarian wheat beer. This does smell a little bit sour. It reminds me of the Patronus stuff. Whenever I smell a little bit of sourness on a wheat beer, that's the first thing that springs to mind, is the Patronus stuff that you buy in Lidl. But it smells good. Let's get it down the hatch. I don't know what they say in Austria, but I'm just going to say bottoms up. Dive in again. Yeah, this isn't as sweet as the Bavarian wheat beers, but it's not bad. There is a definite tang to it that you sort of get at the back of the throat. It's not your usual wheat beer. So if you're used to, say, for example, Franciscana, something like that, or even if you're lucky, the Edelweiss stuff, it ain't like that. There is a slight bitterness. Oh, it's not actually bitter. It's more of a tangy style flavour. It's not bad though, I have to say. There's a fair amount of clove in that. In fact, the clove is a little bit more dominant on this. You're not getting much of the banana at all. But it's drinkable. It isn't bad. Doesn't really stand out as being great. And I have to say, and I have said this before, it does remind me of the Patronus stuff, which I think is brewed, well, the name is Perlenbacher, but I can't remember, is it Erfurt who brew that? But they're based in Frankfurt. They're like a big contract brewer that are based in Frankfurt who brew it, but it reminds me of that. A little bit of hop character on that. And I think that's where the bitterness is coming from. I think that's the hops. It doesn't say what hops, there's no brew sheet in this. But there is a little bitterness on this as well. It's different, I will say that. In the Bavarian wheat beers, you don't get much of a hop character on there at all. I mean, they use usually it's Hercules hops or some sort of Palatau grown hop. Usually Hercules was what you'll find in there. It doesn't really stand out. It's all about the yeast with wheat beers. But this, you're getting a little bit of the hop character. So there's like a little herbal bitterness on there. And it's just about okay. It tastes, I wouldn't say cheap, but it just doesn't compare to the Bavarian stuff, unfortunately. And this is the most popular. Well, you know what they say about the most popular, that doesn't really mean a thing. Just because it's the most popular doesn't mean it's the best. You know, Foster's is one of the most popular beers in the UK. Does that mean it's the best? Fucking definitely not. So I would not read much into that. The more you get down, the less inspiring it is, and it's just lacking the big flavours that you get with the Bavarian stuff. The big banana and big clove. Yeah, just about acceptable. I mean, this is cold. It has come out of the fridge, which is it's the way you're supposed to drink wheat beer. Wheat beer is a summer drink. You can drink it all year round, but it is drunk in summer, and I wouldn't say it's hearty, but it's quite full-bodied. Of course it is. It's with all the wheat is in there. This is I wouldn't say it's a little bit thin, but it's just what's that bitterness on the back as well, which is different. I mean, it does give it a little bit of character. It's not trying to emulate the Bavarian stuff, which is good, I suppose, because you want to put your own character on there. But I can't help thinking it tastes a little bit cheap, and it's the sort of wheat beer that you would get from Aldi or Lidl, That's what it reminds me of. I would probably finish this and probably not drink another one. I don't know what it's like on the perfect draft. It may be nicer, but I think it's perfect draft that you can get it on. It's not this, it's the Heffertrube. I don't know how much of a difference there is between the original and the Heffertrube. Heffertrube, of course, means yeast and cloudy, so it's in its natural state. But this is, it's just so-so. That's as far as I am going to go with it. And I know I've only drunk that much of it, but the more I go down there, it's starting to become apparent what it's all about. There is a little bit of hop character in that. I will give it that. That's quite original, and it's not too unpleasant. I like that. It's a little bit of a twist, and it does give it a little bit of character, because I can taste some earthy hop bitterness, some herbal hop bitterness more than earthy. There was a little touch at first, but it's fucking hell. Try and speak right. There's a little touch of earthiness to it, but it's more herbal. There's a herbal bitterness to it, like a grassy bitterness, but it ain't bad. It ain't bad. It's not a sink job. I'm going to drink this and probably not buy it ever again, unless I'm in Austria and this is the only beer that's available. But I guess I am just too used to really good Bavarian weissbier to really give much credence to this, to be honest. And the money you spend on that, I think you'd be better off buying a Bavarian, something like Edelweiss. You cannot go wrong with that. Weizenbier, them two, I mean, they're perfect. Even if you don't want to, you've got something against Bavaria, go for the Heinken stuff. Their wheat beer is absolutely lovely. I'm just going to leave it there. So what is the verdict on Edelweiss original Weizenbier? Well, it was never going to be as good as the Bavarian stuff being owned by Heineken, is it? And I was sort of proved right by that. But it's okay. I mean, it's not a pour down the sink job, but it just doesn't compare to the Bavarian stuff. And some of you out there might be saying, oh, that's all you do is compare it. The Bavarian stuff is the best in my opinion, and that's what I'm going to compare it to. And it doesn't compare. And it's an also ran in my opinion. Not unpleasant. I won't pour this down the sink, and I'm definitely going to finish that. But it's one of them beers that I will probably never buy again, unless someone buys it for me. And I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But yeah, one thing I do like about it, it is different. It's not it's not a poor imitation of a Bavarian. They are putting their own little twist on it, and I do like the little hop bitterness that you're getting on that. That does come across as quite nice and a bit unique as well. I wouldn't say unique, but it gives it its own character. It's quite nice. So on the strength of that, I'll give it a slightly generous 6 out of 10. But there is much better out there. I will say that. If you're considering buying this, I mean, I understand if you're going to do it on the perfect draft, because apparently they do a keg for that. I would say to you, maybe consider the Franciscana. It's on a par with that at least. It's just under par to that. And Franciscana is the default German wheat beer, in my opinion, because it's so available in the UK. I wouldn't go out of your way to buy this, and the money you'll spend on this would be much better spent on a Edelweiss or a Weizenbier, because that is, in my opinion, the pinnacle of wheat beer. So, yeah, you've got to do something special for me to recommend anything over them two breweries. There you go. And remember, beer is working class champagne.